What's up, everybody? Looks like we're live on Facebook and YouTube. I'm excited this morning because I get to talk to one of my heroes, Kevin McManus. Um, he's been a big influence on me. But before we do that, while we're getting ready here, wanted to mention a couple things. If you don't know who I am, I'm Kevin Ward. I run a website called mixcoach.com, and I love to teach people to mix and Pro Tools, production techniques, I've been doing church production here lately, and I love to talk about that too. I wanted to tell you one thing, though, that we may not get a chance to mention is I've been working on this new thing for mixers that will help you to uncover invisible tracks. So phase is kind of a big thing, and it does not discriminate on how much experience you have. If you have something out of phase or something in the track, then it is out of phase, and it will sound thin, and there's nothing you can do about it until you find it. So I created this course called Fix Your Phase. It's Discover Invisible Tracks, and I'd love for you to download it. It's free. Just go to mixcoach.com. Here, let me put a little banner up here. Mixcoach.com/invisible. It's a free course, and I'm adding stuff to it day by day. So totally free. Go grab it. If you're a beginning mixer, you don't know anything about it, then this course is for you. If you're an advanced mixer and you just need a refresher course and just why it's important and how you kind of miss the mark sometime on your mixes, go check it out. Mixcoach.com/invisible. Okay. So, let me get to this. This is Kevin McManus. Kevin has had a long career, and it seems like everything he touches, he has a Midas touch. He started off as a drummer back a long time ago. Then he was the front of house engineer for the Marshall Tucker Band, which was the #1 box office attraction in '74. So he's been he's literal rock star, at least to me. If not to me, I posted on my Facebook page just to kind of announce that I was talking to it, and under the post started populating about what a cool mixer he was and what an influence he's been on a lot of people's lives and careers. So I couldn't be more excited to be able to talk to Kevin. So let me roll this, and then when we come back, it'll be me and Kevin talking. Okay, see ya. All right. So Kevin is in Nashville, and I am in California, and we were just talking about technology today, man. Did you ever see this coming, like be able just to talk live, like when you back in the day?
Oh, I remember when we couldn't get a long distance telephone conversation from California to Nashville.
Oh, really?
On several occasions, it was bad and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just talked a little bit about, your career a little bit. I'd love to touch on some of that stuff, but you put a picture up on your Facebook post the other day talking about the Marshall Tucker Band, and I loved when we're talking, I love to sit and listen to some of your Marshall Tucker stories, or the ones you can tell anyway. But I didn't realize that it was the #1 box office attraction in '74. That's happening, right?
That's only half true, actually. I should have explained myself. There was a package back in '74 with Marshall Tucker and Charlie Daniels Band. And it was the #1 box office attraction in the nation. We did all the big arenas, the outdoor dates and all that stuff. But it wasn't just the Marshall Tucker Band. It was Charlie Daniels and the Marshall Tucker Band package. So I have to give credit where credit is due. I love Charlie, and still out there picking and grinning. So
yeah,
I can tell you a short story.
Okay.
We were in Wisconsin in the dead of winter, and Charlie's bus wouldn't start. So here's both road crews and both bands push this bus in the snow to jump. Of course, the buses back then had manual transmissions. You couldn't do that today with all these fancy buses that have automatic transmissions.
Oh yeah,
them off, But we did it.
So you put it in second gear and pop the clutch, right?
That's right.
Well, I wanted to. Just jumping off place. There's so many things that we could talk about. Let me talk about because I mentioned what an influence you were. I wanted to just mention just one or two stories. When I was about 11 years old, I remember, well, it may even go back further than that. There was a group that was highly influenced to me, and I think it was influential to a lot of people, at least the coolest people. It was the Henson Family. You recorded the Henson Family back in the day, and I remember listening to those records. From out of the West they came. Some of those records that just had Kenny and the Hensons at their best. And I remember thinking, as a like 10, 11-year-old kid going, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know how they get the sound, and I don't know who makes Kenny sound so good and so cool, but I want to do this. And I remember taking a little cassette recorder and recording, bouncing things from recorder to recorder as I overdubbed stuff. And I remember taking it to my mom and told her, this is what I want to do. And then I started reading credits. Back when you could read credits, when you could open up a record and see who had a part of everything, all of my favorite records had your name on it as mix engineer and sometimes producer. And I remember when I got the chance to finally meet you, I was with the Perkins family. You remember the Perkins family?
I did. I remember that when you came with them.
Yep. I came with them, and to be honest with you,
who is this? Who is this little punk kid that's asking all these questions?
That's true. I mean, I ask a lot of questions.
I did not think that for a minute. I took life.
Well, I tried to be as nice and nosy as I could, but I remember, just full disclosure here. Let me close this door. Did I mention this is live? I remember, just full disclosure here, when I was that age, I would make decisions. I was a bass player. I mean, that was kind of my thing. And then with the Perkins family, I kind of got into this whole arranging vocals and producing and trying to, keep people on their parts and not let them sing parallel fifths and all that kind of stuff. And I remember that I had worked with them quite a bit. But one of the reasons that, there were a lot of reasons I wanted to be with the Perkins family. They had a studio, and I knew that they were recording, and they had recorded a record with you and Chris White, and Eldridge Fox was involved in it. And that was just that combination of people was just. My mic come unplugged. Can you still hear me, Kevin?
I can hear you, but the video is locked.
I mentioned this is live. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. The video is not back. There you go. I think we're back now.
Okay, all right. So I don't know what just happened. My Bluetooth. What's that?
Did you pay your phone bill?
That's a good question.
Internet bill.
I did. I think it's a USB thing, but I remember going to the studio and getting to sit in the room with you, Chris, Eldridge, and I was just like bursting with questions. And you, and there was another guy that was there at the time, Rick Salyer.
Yeah.
You guys answered all of my questions, and I have always had an appreciation for people, and I've always tried to be this guy from then on. Is like, I think the most talented people are the most open people, and they don't mind sharing because they have this abundance mindset that's like, I could give away all my knowledge and I would still learn something new tomorrow. And I just appreciate you being like that, because I have learned a ton from you. And one more thing, and then we'll jump off into just random Kevin conversations. I remember when so working with the Perkins family led me to a studio in Asheville, North Carolina. They were recording there, and that's where Eldridge kind of landed, when he was at home. And I was there, and I ended up being a chief engineer there, knowing that full well I was in over my head. I had a lot of good questions, and I had a lot of good answers from people who could answer questions like you. But I remember you came up one time and recorded a choir. You remember that? You came up one time, and I've got I remember. What's that?
I think that was when didn't I fly over there?
Yeah. You flew over there.
Afterward.
Just another thing that made Kevin McManus cooler. Okay, I got a confession to make. When you were there, you brought this 24 track. That's back before we could just zip files over. You had a 24 track, and to me, you were the king of the kick drum. Your kick drum sounded better than anything that I could imagine. And I remember actually listening to country radio one day, and I was like, that kick is amazing. That's better than any kick on the radio right there. And then I looked, and it was Clinton Gregory, and you mixed it. But anyway, you flew over in your airplane, and I picked you up at the airport, brought you back to the studio, loaded up your 2-inch tape on the machine. And while you weren't looking, I sampled your kick drum, and I listened to it. And it was the bar that I tried to reach for and never was able to get to for many years. And then I took you back to the airport, and you flew off, and I thought, Kevin McManus is the coolest man alive.
Jackson.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about airplanes, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you just sell your airplane?
I did about a year ago. I had a little a little bump in the road with my health back in 2011. Actually, it was pancreatic cancer, and there's not many people that survived that. I was blessed. God had a hand in it, and everything kind of fell together. I had a great surgeon, one of the best in the world, and they caught it in time. But it put me on a regimen of medicine that the FAA wouldn't accept. So I lost my medical, and I couldn't fly anymore. So I kept the plane for 3 or 4 years, thinking I'm gonna get my medical back. I did actually went to take the physical, and being a pilot yourself, there's a questionnaire that goes along with the medical when you go to get your FAA medical, and you have to list any medications that you might be taking. Well, I was taking sertraline. I still take sertraline, but I looked it up before I went to the doctor's office. I looked it up on the FAA website, and it said that it was acceptable under certain conditions. I thought, well, certainly they're not going to take my license away. I've been flying since I was 15 years old. They're not going to take my license away because I take sertraline. So when I went to take the medical, I passed everything, all the other parts of the medical. But the doctor said, "Man, I can't issue you a medical because you're taking sertraline." So, I just felt like it was, I didn't like it one bit, but there wasn't a whole lot I could do about it. He did say, well, if you want to contest this, he said, you can go to an examiner at a level above me and plead your case. And they'll probably do a battery of tests and all this kind of stuff. And then, maybe you'll get it back. And I said, great. Who is it and where do I have to go? He said, Memphis. So, driving 4 hours to a doctor's appointment just kind of made me realize that, maybe my flying days ought to be over. I don't want to be unsafe. I don't want to hurt anybody, kill anybody, kill myself. So, as much as I hated to, I sold the airplane to a very good friend of mine in Dallas, who's a preacher. And he grew up, his dad was a pilot and has passed away. And he got into flying just a few years ago and got his private and his instrument. And they actually bought an airplane like mine, a Blanca, partner. But it was a little older model. Mine was newer and in better shape, better radio and stuff like that. So they bought it. I let him have it for what I owed on it. And he bought it and just recently sold it. He had it about 2 years, I want to say. I think I sold it about 2 years ago. But they sold it. They had bought 2 other airplanes and were kind of airplane poor. And they sold it. So anyway.
Well, it's probably just about the right time, too, because Nashville just got hammered with some storms. And I think John C. Toon Airport, where you kept your plane, got destroyed, didn't it?
Yeah, I went out there last weekend and just drove around. The hangars where my plane was, that row of hangars, and the row of hangars behind it, and the row of hangars behind it is all gone. The concrete slab is still sitting there, but the hangars are all gone.
Wow.
The 2 big hangars, those are gone. There's a pile of metal out there. There's some very expensive airplanes in a junk heap out there. Some of them, there was a Falcon, high-engine Falcon. I can't remember the model number, but the Falcon in the pile, and a couple of citations, and a bunch of single engine, twin engine piston plants. They're just in a big pot.
Wow.
So word on the street is, well, actually, word in the news was that it did $90 million worth of damage to the airport alone. That didn't include the aircraft.
Wow. Wow. I thought that would include all those citations and
no,
man.
Unfortunately, no. And then I saw the news last night. In fact, a pastor friend of mine in Louisiana sent me a picture of Monroe. The airport in Monroe, Louisiana got wasted last night. So.
Oh, wow. That's right. Another
for airplanes and airports.
Wow. Daryl Freeman he gave me a huge compliment. The two Kevs to put me in your category as a compliment, Daryl. Thank you, man. He said, and he said this: they've taken my money several times. Oh.
Hey, tell Daryl Freeman. Well, I'll tell him. Daryl, you remember the time we went deer hunting in your brand new? I think it was a Toyota Roadrunner or something. It was a very nice SUV, Toyota SUV, and it wasn't a month old. And we take it in the woods and track mud all over this thing. I said, "You gonna take this thing in the woods?" Oh yeah, no problem. So we didn't get it, or we'd had probably blood all over it too.
Yeah. You went deer hunting or turkey hunting or what?
Deer hunting, yeah. We were going deer hunting.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to hear some. I want to hear about what you're doing now. You've kind of okay. So you started Nashville Teleproductions back
86.
86. Back when before video. I mean, I guess video has always been big. It's a little easier access now that you can stream live to the world from your laptop. But back then, you built a mobile truck. And that mobile truck, Mobile One, I think it was called, was legendary. That was kind of like your B room, wasn't it? You would go out and mix live records in that thing. Tell me about
that. What?
What's that?
Tell you about what? About the truck?
Well, you built. Well, I guess Kevin here has done probably some of the most iconic, at least Southern gospel records that I'm aware of. You did some of the Kingsmen, the McCameys. You did a lot. You covered a lot of ground in that truck. It was called Mobile One, and you just took a van and basically turned it into a mobile truck, and that was Nashville Teleproductions at the time. But it's changed faces a little bit now. Walk me through the whole building of the truck, and then what Nashville Teleproductions is now.
Well, the truck was built because I got bitten by the video bug, and I wanted to be in video. And of course, I've been in Southern gospel for many years and done a lot of projects. I've done some live projects, and I thought it would be cool to have a truck that had multiple cameras and multi-track audio. There wasn't one in town. There was not one in Nashville at the time. You could hire an audio truck and you could hire a video truck, but you didn't have access to a truck that had both formats. So, well, I don't have I can't spend a fortune and build a network truck, but I put 4 cameras and a 16-track Tascam 1-inch machine. Was it 1 inch back then? Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah. And then I bought this Adam Smith synchronizer where you could lock the ATR and the VTR together and do audio remix and playback. I thought, well, this is cool. I can do. And, one of the first projects I did, the Spencer family in Ohio. That was kind of the test run we did with it. And then about a week later, Bill Traylor called me and he said, heard about this new truck you got. He said, is it available Saturday night? And I said, it was just sitting in the driveway. So he said, well, the Kingsman, I'm down here in Mississippi with the Kingsman, and we're trying to do a live project. And the console in the truck we hired blew up. The power supply blew up. And everything. So he said, can you come over to Opryland and do a live recording on the Kingsman? I said, sure. And it was supposed to be just audio only, because we were out in the park and we weren't going to do the cameras. We were just going to do audio only. So we got over there on Saturday, and it was pouring rain like cats and dogs. And so they canceled the outdoor event and moved it to the Opry House on Sunday night. And Bill said, "Can you do that? Can you move the truck over there and do it?" I said, "Yeah, I can do it." He said, "Can you drag the cameras out?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I can." I said, "But you'll have to get permission because Nashville Network at the time, ran everything over there." So he went to Bud Wendell, who was the manager of the Opry, and told them they were going to do a live recording in there. And he said, "By the way, so the guy that has the truck has got a couple of cameras." He said, "Do you mind if he brings them in?" He said, "Nah, that's fine." So I went out at the last minute. I went out and put a crew together, and I hired 3 camera operators from Nashville Network and a video engineer to shade the cameras. I hired Gene Lawson to come and do the audio, and I directed it myself. And we did we did the Kingsman live at the Opry House, and of course, Stand Up was on that record, and it was on the project, and it was the fastest moving #1 single I think in the history of Southern gospel music. I don't know if it still is, but at the time it was like 3rd month out, it was #1. It came in the 20s, and then about halfway up, and then went to. How that industry is, it's a monthly charting system. So, but in 3 months, it was unheard of at the time. So we did that. And of course, we did Magruder's Come Fly project, which I still have some of those, and they still sell. I still get requests for them. Like 92 or something like that.
Yeah. So what came first, Nashville Teleproductions or the record company?
Well, Nashville Teleproductions, I started Nashville Teleproductions when I built the truck. And then Chris White and I got together, had some conversations about what he was trying to do. He was interested in having a record company. I was not necessarily, that didn't really appeal to me to be a record executive, but one guy can't do everything. And Chris's forte was, the business management of the record company and that kind of thing. And I was the engineer. I told Chris at the time, I said, "I know where there's a studio. Henry Slaughter's got a studio called Oak Valley. And that's, as far as I know, I think he just does a few sessions in there of his own. He does a few custom sessions for people. And for the most part, the studio's just sitting there." So I said, "Why don't we go talk to Henry and see if we can lease this studio?" We did. It worked out. We moved in. And, one of the first projects we did, since I had done the Kingsman and got to be close to Eldridge was producing Gold City. So he books Gold City at Oak Valley, and we did the project. I can't remember the title of the project, but it had Midnight Cry on it.
I remember that.
And it turned out to be Song of the Year and Song of the Decade.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and it was #1 for seven months.
I just always assumed that you bought the studio and then you built the truck, but the truck was first, right?
Yeah, the truck came first. It was sitting in my driveway. I built it. It sat in my driveway. And then when we moved into Oak Valley, it didn't sit there long because this all kind of came together about the same time.
Yeah.
And, because we did a lot of other projects with the truck, but, the studio was cranking. My biggest problem was I couldn't be in 2 places at the same time.
Yeah.
And I needed help, and we reached out. We had, Rick Salyer, as you mentioned. Rick worked there for us some. Eddie Howard did some sessions there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Gosh. When you get to be my age, you can't remember anything. But anyway, I needed help. I couldn't be in 2 places at the same time. And then it just, as it worked out, the studio was more profitable at the time than the truck was. Because, about the same time, I built that truck for the Southern gospel music industry. I knew that there was a need for, capturing the anointing live. And so I built it for the industry that I was actively involved in at the time. And the studio stayed busy all the time. We were booked solid, probably one of the biggest, not one of the busiest studios in the city. So, we had to part with the truck. So if I'd had somebody that could ramrod it, and kept it going and booked, who knows what could have maybe happened. But anyway, we stuck with the studio. And
yeah, that's good. So Nashville Teleproductions you're still running that, but you're doing something different now. Tell me about that.
Well, it all is related because back when I was doing a lot of Christian music in the studio, the artists that I was recording were, younger. A lot of them were younger gentlemen and ladies, and they grew up to become pastors of churches. And they would call me and say, "Hey, how do you do this, or how do you do that, or what kind of microphone do I need to use for this, or what kind of speakers should I buy," and that kind of stuff. And I thought, there's definitely a need out there for somebody that can give these churches some direction and provide some quality services with installation and training and things like that. So, about 7 years ago or so, 7-8 years ago, when we sold the studio, I made a career change. I don't know how I just walked away from being a mixing engineer, but I really had a passion for video. So I walked away from the audio side of things. Not walked away, but it wasn't my primary focus anymore. And I started designing church systems, audio, video systems, screens and projection, LED walls, lighting. So it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to learn.
Believe me, I know.
I've been blessed that I've found some good people that keep me straight. And, I'm an old analog guy trying to survive in a digital world. But, it kind of covers a broad spectrum of things, and including live production. And that was where I came from originally, with the days of Marshall Tucker. It was a challenge to me to mix in front of house in front of 75,000 people and get it right the first time.
Right.
I think most people with a decent ear and a good head on their shoulders can sit behind a desk and run things back and forth and get it sounding really good. But capturing it live the first time was a real challenge for me. I love that.
Yeah.
So that's why I built the truck. Excuse me. So I built the truck. That's why I like the live environment. I like to put stuff in churches that's really going to make people communicate. Now we're doing, a lot of projects that involve live streaming, like such as we are. So, we have churches that are reaching out around the world. My home church here in Nashville, we have a 5-camera HD system that includes a multi-track audio system. We hardly ever use the multi-track because it's all about the live thing. But during the past few weeks, with the churches being shut down, we have had an opportunity to pre-record some services and do multi-track and remix the audio and, kind of spruce things up a little bit. That's kind of what I'm doing now and how I got into it. It was kind of a natural thing to go that direction. And now I got, I got clients all over the world, including out there where you're at. We've got a couple of clients in California.
It's just NashvilleTeleproductions.com.
It is.
All right. So if you guys have any, is that right, Kevin, that you see that banner there, NashvilleTeleproductions.com? Just want to make sure I got it right. Okay. Well, let me put you in the batter's box for a second then, because I'm kind of following the same. Seems like I'm a few years behind you in every turn with my pilot's license, with learning to mix, record companies, with and now, learning video. I'm a little later learning video and that stuff, but I have a passion for it too. So since you install this kind of stuff, let me ask you some nerdy, geeky, Nashville Teleproductions questions. When you install a church sound system, what's the best bang for the buck as far as an audio console goes? Just real quick.
Audio console?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a huge Midas fan.
Mm-hmm.
I have been since the 70s. Midas and API were the ultimate consoles on the road back then. Clare Brothers had API, and Midas consoles came out. A lot of people went that way, but so I've been working around Midas for a long time. We represent Midas. We do sell their product. Of course, Midas is owned by the people that own Behringer. It's called the Music Tribe, I believe it is. And they have, they came along and made a lot of money selling fairly inexpensive audio devices, consoles primarily, and outboard gear. And I never really thought it was all that great. But they invested their money wisely. They bought Midas. They also own Clark Technique, Lab Group in Tannoy, I believe, Turbosound, and some other entities. But they've some of their R&D is cross-platform, or not cross-platform, but the Behringer stuff now comes with engineering that was done by Midas. Right. They advertise Midas mic pre's. It's not the same mic pre that you get in a Heritage, but it's good, especially for the money. Yeah. The new Behringer wing. I put one of those in a church about 3 weeks ago. Over in Oxford. My first experience with the console. To be honest with you, I didn't have a chance to learn near enough about it. Yeah. To tell you how great it is. Yeah. But I can tell you this: for the money, it's a big bang for the buck. Yeah. Yeah. So, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's a 40. They advertise 48 inputs. It's got 40 mic pre's. There are 40 mixing channels that you can do. But anyway, it's a good bang. The Midas and Behringer, and I also like Allen and Heath. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of an English kind of guy. I like the English sound. I like the sound of the EQs and the mic pre's of Midas and Allen and Heath, and Neve, SSL. Those are all. AMEC. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You remember that?
I remember the AMEC, Angela, and that was the great console. Okay, so let me ask you another couple of not audio related, and these can be just your top two favorite. But let's say you were going to put a good broadcast camera in, or a good broadcast camera and an affordable broadcast camera. What's the two model numbers that come to mind?
Model numbers? Well, it would depend on your budget, of course. With cameras, there's different levels. There's single chip cameras that are broadcast quality, and there's 3-chip cameras that broadcast quality. There's HD and there's 4K and above. Some of the broadcast trucks now that are doing sporting events, when all this mess gets over with, have got 12K cameras. Not all the way around, but they do have some 12K cameras they're using for replays and things like that. That are incredible. So it really depends on what you want to spend, where you're at with the money. I like Panasonic. I think Panasonic has got the best selection across the board. They're not the cheapest. If you're looking for something cheap, there's a lot of different ways to go. Some people use consumer cameras, the Canons and things that are like the SLRs are popular. People are using the SLRs. I was watching a video clip last night that a friend of mine in Louisiana sent me that his son and another gentleman in the church. His son's a worship leader, and then they have tech director, and they shot this video with 2 iPhones, and it was incredible. It was all in the edit, but the iPhone picture looks great. I mean, I'll bet you're on an iPhone right now, or at least a Mac. You can tell my picture is a lot darker. Might have helped if I cleaned the camera.
Right.
But
clean the lens.
but yeah, right. Yeah. But I think Panasonic in general, from a professional standpoint, is a good starting point. Yeah. The HE40, the AWHE40 is a PTZ camera. I'm all about PTZ. Mm-hmm. In the church environment, it's a lot. Sometimes it's a challenge to find enough people to run a ship.
Right.
Mm-hmm. These guys that go out and buy a console for front of house, and one for the broadcast mix and one for monitors. Well, in most churches, it's difficult enough to find one person that knows how to mix, let alone 2.
Yeah.
So, I kind of went that way about 12 years ago, the PTZ camera route, because I can run the whole shooting match by myself. I've got 5 cameras. 3 of them are PTZ. 2 of them are they have camera ops when they show up. When they don't show up, I leave them on a medium wide shot and I move the PTZs. Yeah. So, that's a really good way to go. If you learn to control the cameras, if you buy a decent controller where it's not herky-jerky and gives it away as being, a PTZ camera.
Right.
But there are some really good PTZ cameras out there, and it's a very affordable way to go.
Yeah.
By the time you buy, there are some cameras. Blackmagic makes some really good cameras. They don't make a PTZ though. And I kind of believe if you're going to go with a manufacturer, that you probably want to stay with them. If you're going to do PTZs and man cameras in combination, then you probably want to go with one manufacturer like Panasonic or Sony or JVC or somebody like that.
Okay.
They all make it. Blackmagic makes a fabulous looking camera. They're all 4K. They're reasonably priced, but they have a little studio camera you can buy. I think the camera is only $1,200 or $1,500 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Then you have to buy the lens. You're looking at, depending on what your needs are, you're looking at a pretty good expense there. You can easily spend more money on the lens than you do on the camera. And then whatever other tricks you want to put on it, then you got to buy a tripod with a nice fluid head or something on it. Mm-hmm. So it's not cheaper to do man camera. Yeah. It's really what it comes right down to. It's what your personal preference is and what you're going to do. I'm happy either way. But.
Yeah, let me ask a question about your 5 camera setup with 3 of them being PTZ cameras and 2 of them being man cameras. What do you get the man cameras to cover? What can they cover better than a PTZ? I mean, I know that a good camera operator can cover a lot. Can really make shots look good. But what do you make the man cameras cover?
My man cameras, one of them's in the center, and I also have a center PTZ camera. I'm a big believer you got to have 2 cameras in the middle, because if you're trying to follow somebody, if somebody gets excited and they start moving, you can't always follow them. If you're in a tight shot or even a medium wide shot, they'll walk out of the shot. So 2 cameras in the middle is, most directors, you'll see in most churches, most video situations where there's multiple cameras, there'll be 2 in the middle. Mm-hmm. So one in the middle is that I keep locked down on kind of a medium wide shot most of the time. And then the other man camera is down stage left, in front of the stage, over in the, off to the side, where I can get shots of the altar, get shots of the congregation, get shots of the band, kind of move it around when I've got an operator. Right. So, it's kind of a flexible position, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a jib, and I have one in my warehouse. I just haven't, those kind of things, you got to make sure that everybody has your blessing before you drag something like that into church, stuff swinging around. And all that.
Yeah. I can imagine it would be a culture changer a little bit in the church too, when when you have a couple of jibs hanging over people's heads and stuff like that.
Yeah, let me turn this light off right now. Just realized that might have something to do with why my picture was so dark. I don't know.
Yeah, that's better. Oh, that's Kevin McManus there.
Hey.
I thought it was one of those informant videos, where you couldn't see their face; they were just talking to protect their.
Maybe I better turn it back on.
Hey, I got a question from a friend of mine, Mark Jacoby. Now we're using Dante quite a lot in our church. What's your feelings on Dante setups?
I love it.
Yeah,
I wish everybody did it.
Yeah,
and the integration is seamless, and for the most part. And of course, I don't subscribe to the fact that some people take Dante, put a Dante card in their digital mixer in front of house, and then send Dante to another mixer downstream to remix for broadcast. To do a broadcast mix or a monitor mix, because typically in that configuration, you're using one set of pre's, and the guy in front of house has got control. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's okay if the guy in front of house doesn't make a lot of changes. We can kind of keep up with it. But in a perfect world, that you still really need a split.
Yeah.
So and that's the thing about Midas. Midas makes a wide variety of IOs for their console. One of them, of course, is a digital splitter. Also has an analog split on it. So it's if you get something like that, Allen and Heath doesn't have a lot of their IOs are not cross-platform. Like if you buy an IO for like a D-Live, it may not work with a GL. And I'm just giving this as hypothetical because I can't keep all that information in my brain. But I think Midas does have a better selection of IOs. Now Digico, Digico has basically anything you want, but it's very high dollar stuff. And, most churches have, maybe a reasonable budget, but it's got to go a long way. So you can't spend it all on the console. Right. That's what I did when I built our church in 2005. Was I didn't go top of the line with anything. I did have a Midas console, but it was an analog desk because it was the digital stuff hadn't been around long, and volunteers were learning to be mixers. They had a long way to go, and it was just easier for me to teach them on an analog desk. So we did that. We did that for about 10 or 12 years, maybe, and then we upgraded. We've got a Pro 2 now, 64 inputs. But what was the question?
Well, what do you think about Dante? I think Dante is probably one of the best things to come along in a while. I mean, just the versatility that it adds. And I think one of the things that Mark is one of the reasons he's asking is because even though we can send audio around the church pretty easily on the Dante system. The thing you talked about is that, when we record upstairs in my studio, we are dependent on we're dependent basically on the level on the mic pre's from the front of house, which can be problematic sometimes when you'd love to just touch a vocal up just a little bit. It's a little bit more of a pain to do that. But I think I didn't realize that there was a Dante splitter. Maybe I need to check into that so we can send, a
No, I didn't mean to imply that it was a Dante splitter. I meant that you would do either an analog split or a digital split at the console and have the consoles on separate sides of the splitter.
Okay.
Not doing a Dante split.
Okay. I guess every split's a Dante split if it's on the Dante network, right? You can split it any way you want to. It's just that you have to depend on one mic pre, one person to run the mic pre. So,
right.
I've been talking last week. I talked a little bit about broadcast mixing, and you've done your share of broadcast mixing. So, give me like 2 or 3 quick tips on like what you think can improve a broadcast mix like instantly? What's a couple of things that a new mixer who's mixing for their church live front of house? What's 3 things they need to remember to make it always like a consistently good broadcast mix?
Well, first of all, you don't ever take your hands off the console. It's like a musical instrument. You got to drive it, play it.
Right.
I try to teach my guys that the theory of building a mix is like building a house. You start with a foundation. So we're going to work on the drums first. That's where the kick drum thing comes in. I found out a long time ago that 30 hertz will make hands go up in the air and people run the aisle.
30 hertz.
You try that. You see if I'm not right. 30 hertz, like a magic frequency, because it hits you right here in the chest.
I remember.
And you can feel it. People feel it. They think that's God. They got to get their hands in it. So start with the foundation and get the kick and the snare and the drums popping and bring that bass in there. Now you got a foundation to build. You can bring your rhythm instruments in. When you get that, those are kind of the walls, of the house. You bring your rhythm instruments in. It kind of starts to fill in. Mm-hmm. And when you get everything, your fill instruments and your rhythm instruments and stuff in, then you can put the roof on, and that's your vocals. And you keep it, generally speaking, there was kind of a general rule of thumb in the industry for a long time. I don't know if anybody still subscribes to it. I do. But your vocals need to kind of lay about 3 dB above the band. Mm-hmm. And just to give you an example of, the BU meters on a console give you a wealth of information. A lot of guys don't realize that. They think they're there just for kicks, but the guys that are learning. But, BU meters, if you watch the output meters of the console, I did this one time at Oak Valley just to see if I could do it. I turned the monitors off and did a mix. I got the drums, where I could see the kick, I could see the snare. When I brought the bass in, I could see that. And I added the rest of the instruments, I could see that. And then when I got that where I thought it looked pretty good, I brought the vocals in and laid them in there about 3 dB above the band, and I recorded it and I played it back. I thought that's pretty close. Without even hearing it, you just got to look at the meters. You got, those meters will give you a wealth of information. So guys that are starting out, if they learn to build the house,
right, that's great.
Learn to build that house, and that get them started on the right foot, and then you got to ride the vocals. You can't take your hands off the console. There's always going to be something, if you're going to keep those vocals at 3 dB, singers don't sing at even levels. You got to kind of ride them and anticipate moves. So if you keep your hands on those vocal faders, and then while you're doing that, something else might, need a little tweaking, maybe something starts to fall back in the mix. You need to push it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, those are the things that are important to me. Of course, there's another whole conversation about Audio 101. What audio waves do and how they work, and gain structure. Setting the console up for the gain structure, everything be at unity, and if you set your faders at this unity point and your gain structure is set up right, it's going to be pretty close. Yeah. So, when you walk in and see a console on the meter, the faders are kind of all over the place. That probably the gain structure is not set up like it should be. So.
Right. That's a good clue. Yeah. That's cool, Kevin. I've been learning from you for years, and I've never heard the house concept. That's pretty brilliant. The drums are the foundation. The musical instruments are the wall. What's the bass?
That's part of the foundation with the drums.
Okay.
You get the drums first, and then bring the bass in with it. There's your foundation. Yeah. The bass and the drums, because the kick and the bass need to work together. You know that. You're a bass player and a mixer, so the bass and the drums are the foundation. And what typically I see happening, and this is my church, anybody's church, is that the vocals end up on top, way on top, for the broadcast or for PA mix. If you're using your PA mix for broadcasts, which a lot of people have to do, we don't use the same mix, but we generate a 2 mix off of a couple of aux buses, and then add the audience mics. The audience mics are your best friend when you're doing live because it covers up a multitude of sins.
I might have said that a few times, Kevin. I think I got it from you.
That it is important when you're doing live stuff to capture the room. The people want, when they're listening at home or over a little bitty computer speaker or over a phone, the first thing they're going to lose is the low frequency. The drums are going to go away, the bass is going to go away. So you need to overcompensate a little bit for the mix that's going to go on. So bring the drums and the bass up a little more than you typically would, and then don't let the vocals get out of hand.
Yeah. Okay.
That's usually what happens. They may start out, right, but typically by the end of the service, the vocals are way up there.
Right. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that. First thing I want to mention is that I am a bass player. You're a drummer, and to me that the bass, I try to get my guys to push the bass all the time because the bass is that thing that nobody's going to complain about too much bass. Usually, they usually just feel it. It's like that 30 hertz thing that makes people's hands go up. The bass guitar. So I think you should run bass up. Now, Mark, who's a guy that is a volunteer at our church, he wants me to ask you about this concept that I teach at my church. It's called, I don't know if you're familiar with the McGurk effect. It's basically when you see someone's mouth move, your ear kind of compensates for it a little bit. So I tell them, same thing you do pretty much, maybe in a different way, is that when you're seeing people sing, you don't need to mix their vocal quite as loud as you would on an audio only thing. Do you agree with that?
I think I do. If I'm understanding what you're saying, I don't think that. I think people generally, depending on where you're mixing from in the house, I think that's got a lot to do with it too. If the guys are mixing from a balcony position or a place where it's not necessarily the best reference point to mix from, they have a tendency to run the vocals hot because they have to walk downstairs or they'll walk around the room and see what kind of things they have to compensate for the room. They're mixing from a different level, from a different realm and all.
Right.
The vocals can kill you, flat out. But the drums and the bass, they're your foundation.
Yeah.
Don't lose that foundation. Your house is going to fall over.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how many times I've hollered over there from the video switcher saying, "Turn the kick drum up."
Yeah.
More kick.
More 30 hertz.
Okay. See, I did for 10 years. I did the general conference for the United Pentecostal Church, and it was in a 20,000 seat arena every year, different venue, different city. We moved around, but when you get 20,000 Pentecostals under one roof, and you turn the kick drum up, you're going to see some activity. There's going to be some running around. There's going to be some hands in the air. There's going to be shouting and people speaking in a funny language. Telling you that will do. So
God is a drummer.
Huh?
God is a drummer.
Hey, never thought of it that way, but you could be.
Oh man.
It makes a big deal. I can tell usually when I'm listening to a mix what the instrument was or the guy that mixed it played. If it was a guitar player, you hear a lot of guitar in the mix.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much drums and bass. leave the guitar there. Same thing with keyboards. Fabulous keyboard sounds, all the effects going and stuff like that. Drums get lost.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a drummer that mixes it, the drums and the bass are going to be there because it's the foundation.
Yeah.
And they know what it's supposed to sound like sitting on a drum seat. That makes sense? You're sitting in the middle of a rhythm section on that drum seat. You know what it feels like. You know what it sounds like. That kick drum, that snare drum, the bass over here.
Yeah. So Mark is asking a couple follow-up questions. Can you boost the 30 hertz on the kick, or is it a volume issue overall? Hey, Mark, I walked into Kevin's studio one time, and in my effort to hijack what he's doing and learn it for myself, you used to run the kick through a Uri 4-band compressor. It's a big knob. It looked like 11,
Parametric.
Yeah, it looked like an 1176, but it was an EQ.
Parametric equalizer. Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I think you're talking about Oak Valley. Well, when I started this 30 hertz business, I was at Hilltop, and I had a Uri rack mount 4-band parametric. And so what I did was I did a real narrow. I took out about 200, 250, between 200 and 300. I took, kind of not a real narrow band dip, but I took most of it out, and then I did a real pointed narrow band boost at 30 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
You can't boost 30 hertz in a wide band. You need to narrow the bandwidth down to just a point so that you're getting 30 hertz and not too much stuff around.
Right.
So you take all that other stuff away, and then I did use a compressor, but I used the best compressor that I found for the kick drum was a DBX 160. Those things would absolutely clamp anything,
Yeah, they sound great.
And I used about 12-to-1 compression.
Really?
And it's just put it in your face.
Yeah. So you went to tape with that, right?
And you got to control it and keep it from, back in the old days, the mastering engineers sometimes would give me fit about the low frequency that I put on the tape. He said, "We can't put that on a record." I said, "Well, you can try, put it on a record." So they'd have to filter, some of it. But.
Yeah, that was custom mastering usually. Did you master with custom mastering quite a bit?
At Nashville Record Production, he did most of my mastering.
Okay, well, and some of that
love to hug his neck right now.
Yeah. Back in the day when you were talking about, you were printing to vinyl too, right? And you really had to compress the vinyl, or when they were printing on the lathe, it would like bounce and skip.
Yeah, make the needle skip.
Yeah, make the needle skip.
That's what I'm talking about. He said, "You can't put that kind of low frequency on there because the grooves are going to be this wide."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'd be really bad when you try to do a 45 and it was a 5-minute song,
Oh, yeah. So much stuff that I never really had to think about, from back in that day. So, uh-oh.
Can you hang on a minute?
Kevin, hang on. Let me go with myself just for a second. We're about to wrap up, but man, thank you for hanging out with us. And allow me just to ask Kevin and germ him, ask him all kinds of questions. I appreciate the people that came in and asked a lot of questions. Tommy Swindle said 30 hertz and the hands up emoji. That should be a t-shirt. Let's see, Kevin, you're back.
Hey,
just about to wrap up here. We've been talking for about an hour now, but I just wanted to say, man, I've enjoyed talking to you again. When are you coming back out to California? I mean, after this thing lifts, I know, but when you got any plans to come out?
Nothing definite.
Okay.
We've talked to a couple of churches out there within the past 6 months, but it wasn't really something that I felt like was going to close real soon.
Mm-hmm.
course, we'll come in anytime, but California is a stretch for us. Nobody wants to drive to California and work for a week.
Really?
So, the only way we could do that is if, maybe if what I was working on a couple months ago was 2 jobs that we could do back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And that would, that'd make it worth the effort.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, cool. Maybe I'll get to see.
I don't know. We may come back out there for vacation again. We had a great time out there with you guys. You got to go eat and greet.
Yeah. It was fun.
Over there, and where was that? Carlsbad. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I will let you go for now. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I guess I will talk to you again soon. I'll probably call you for some more information and just bleed your brain a little bit more if I can later on.
Well, you do it before it gets too much. Before I lose too much.
Too full.
Keep going downhill,
Kevin, if it's not apparent, you mean the world to me, and I appreciate everything I've learned from you, and I love you.
Oh, man, you know what? It's been a great relationship. I love you like a brother, and I wish you the very best. Please do stay in touch with me. Okay?
All right. Thanks, Kevin. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. So, Kevin McManus, the man. Thanks for all the questions. As you can tell, he's a wealth of information, not just about audio stuff, but video stuff. And even drawing the lines between my career and his. I'm into video now, and he was too. So, anyway, I want to mention one more thing before you leave. If you want to learn a little bit more about phase, how to keep your mix glued together and not miss those little parts that are disappearing, like why you can trigger a kick drum and a snare drum and it sounds actually worse than before, but you can solo the kick drum that you triggered and it sounds great, and you can solo the kick drum that you're trying to go over and it sounds great too. There's some tricks I can teach you, and if you want to go to and you want to find out what that is, go to this link here, mixcoach.com/invisible. I'm going to show you how to what's causing that and how to fix it. Okay. So I will see you again tomorrow. We're going to have Joe Carroll on the show tomorrow. Joe's an old friend of mine. We're going to talk about what he's been up to lately, and I'm looking forward to it. So 8 o'clock in the Pacific time zone, 10 o'clock in Nashville, 11 o'clock on the West Coast. And I hope I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Talk to you soon.